Hi guys, today I wanted to go over the Draven patch notes because I spent quite a lot of time going over Draven himself, playing on the PvE with these patch notes, and I know that a lot of people go over the patch notes when they come out and stuff, so I thought, I can give a crack at it, why not? Um, so I have the patch notes here. The first thing I wanted to note that I really like, that I don't know if they did this last patch or the patches before. You could probably look it up real quick. It's the fact that they have little icons here for the faces of the champions, which I find is a nice little add-on. I think it'll really help newer players, especially just to catch on to like who we're actually talking about. It can be as dumb as I've seen people, you know, mistakenly call Amumu Nunu or Nunu Amumu because the names are fairly similar. I mean, Amumu, Nunu, like the phonetics are pretty similar. So I mean that kind of stuff can be really useful. Also, like just new champions coming out. Like I myself would often say Darius instead of Draven, or Draven instead of Darius. Um, and now having having the name next to like a photograph like this it'll help people that identify champions that way. Um, if we just look at, say, the Darius patch notes. Okay, so they hadn't done it. So this is a new add-on, and I really hope they continue doing this. It's really cool. So there's only one new skin. It's the Soul Reaver Draven, which, by the way, is really awesome. It's super cool. It's got that Demon Blade Tryndamere quality to it. It's like really evil and all, and it's different. It's very different than, say, just like a recolor, which is what they usually do. Mind you, the recolors are getting better and better, but usually that's what they do. They just recolor, and it's like, enjoy. And as of late, or at least as of one patch now only, I think only Darius got one skin only. I think he's the first champion that got only one skin, and now they seem to want to continue with this trend, which is fine. I mean, having two skins for one champion isn't necessarily the most appealing thing, and on top of that, if the skin you want is the one that comes in the second bundle, well, you're kind of forced into buying it. If you like planned on spending the RP anyways. But anyways, not a big deal, but it's a really cool skin. You guys should definitely check it out. So Draven has been released. His skills, I've already showcased them before. Just a quick overview. His passive is sort of like his brother's Hemorrhage. He either crit strikes or uses his spinning axe to cause the bleeding effect, which does damage over time. His spinning axe is it's not an auto attack reset. I'm going to say right away, it's not an auto attack reset. It just adds damage to his next auto attack. It is very, very strong. You can basically keep it up constantly if you get very good with it. You can have two spinning axes at once, which means that you can, like, each of your auto attacks is going to be a spinning axe. Because in between two spinning axes, you can land an auto attack that's not a spinning axe, which means that you're not going to have the bonus AD on it. This is very well explained in not just the patch preview video, but the spotlight, the champion spotlight of Draven, which I suggest you check out if you haven't seen him before. Blood Rush is his attack speed and movement speed spell. It's really cool because it's a high. Well, it's not a high cooldown. It's a fairly low cooldown. But if you catch a spinning axe, it resets, so you get to use it again, and you can use it again and again and again. And this keeps you very fast, very mobile, and it keeps you attacking fast as well. Which means if you have two spinning axes going and you got a constant blood rush and you keep catching your axes, that means you're hitting very hard and very fast, and you're basically always catching up to your target. It can kind of be used as an escape mechanism. If you like auto attack a creep on your way away, you can lead the spinning axis to where you want to go, and if you catch it, you can blood rush again, which gives you like a small movement speed boost. Not that it's necessarily small, it's just that it's 1.5 seconds, so it's not a very long movement speed buff. Stand Aside is really just a utility spell. As Freak noted in the spotlight, you really should just put a point in it, and that's it. Like, you just stop there. You don't need tons of points in that, not at all. It's not worth it. It like knocks people over, moves them, and slows them, whatever. It's pretty cool for stopping channels. It's got a decently long range, so you can really stop like something from the back line. If you see it, you can probably toss it out and maybe stop like a Fiddlesticks channel, you can stop a Karthus ult, stuff like that. And Whirling Death is the ultimate that can be tossed across the whole map. It will make its way either to the end of the map to a champion, or when you toggle it, if it hits a champion, it will start slowing down and then slowly come back. It doesn't like just stop in its tracks and start coming back. It is global, which is really amazing. And it hits pretty hard. For a team fight, it's good AoE, so it's a pretty cool spell. So moving on to Ahri. Ahri's still getting some work done on her. I mean, she's very strong, and what they did here is exactly what is kind of the problem with Ahri. I'll explain that once I just read through these the changes they made. The damage reduced at later ranks to 40 all the way to 140, from 40 all the way to 160. So she gets hit as soon as she gets level 2 Foxfire. But the ability power ratio is increased by basically 0.025, which is really minimal. The reason for that, and for the Spirit Rush, I think they did the same thing. Damage reduced to 85, 125, 165. So she's knocked down 15 per stack as soon as she hits her level 1 ult. And it's 15 at every level. So 85 to 165 instead of 100 to 180. But they did knock up like a 0.05 on her ratio. And what they want is they want to encourage you to actually build AP on her now, instead of building utility items that make you also very tanky, like Rylai's and Abyssal. You can also go, well, the Ancients, stuff like that. It'll avoid people going super strong utility AP items and trying to build actually right into AP so she can deal that much more damage. Now, mind you, the ratios are still really, really low. So I'm curious if that's just going to, knock Ahri out of the AP pool. Is she going to be still a viable pick within all the other picks? And I don't think it's too terrible. She was still quite strong, but I don't know. I don't know if this was absolutely necessary, but she is picked quite commonly. So we'll see how this works out for her in the coming days and weeks. Next up is the Amumu fix, which is probably the biggest nerf, honestly, in the whole patch notes. Fixed a bug that caused players to hear sad robot Amumu's voice across the map. That's so sad. That's even more sad than Amumu himself. Like, Amumu himself is going to have to cry to himself for the rest of his whole life now. Sad robot Amumu cannot cry map wide. Well, laugh map wide. He's gonna cry map wide now. Oh my god. To compensate, they should have made his W like map wide for just like for another like patch, a whole patch. That's fine. Like maybe a week or something like that. That could work. That would be only fair. I mean, God, it was so amusing. So Darius has a little nerf. He was rather strong. He probably still is, but we'll look at these first. Hemorrhage, his passive, the AD ratio has been reduced to 0.3 from 0.4, which is fine. It's just a passive, so knocking a little off of that is not a terrible idea. Noxian Guillotine will now only refresh its cooldown when it deals the killing blow. This is basically because after you use Noxian Guillotine, if the enemy would die from an auto attack, from hemorrhage, from like another decimate, his Q, something like that, in a very, very short period of time after having used your ultimate, it could still reset. Now, to be honest, I never used it that way. I always had in my mind that I would try and last hit with it, because I think that's kind of the point of the champion. It's to steal all the pentakills, but anyways. Apprehend pre-pull animation modified to be more readable for enemy champions. Okay, so I'm not sure how that looks now, but we'll see. Fix the bug with hemorrhage applying Rylai's Crystal, Scepter, Slow, and Spell Vamp effects. Okay, so that's not necessarily too dramatic, but it's not supposed to be there, so they just removed it. So yeah, Darius is still very, very strong. He only got hit on his passive, which is definitely really good. It does have the drawback that when you're fighting someone and you want to just poke at them under tower, you're definitely going to draw tower aggro as long as the hemorrhage is on them. Makes it kind of hard to use, but all the same, it's very strong, and it's great to just place it on the enemy as often as you can, because in the end, you come out very, very strong in trades. Now, Ezreal. Ezreal's Essence Flux mana cost reduced to 50 all the way to 90, from 60 all the way to 100, so a little 10 off is not terrible at all. It's a very good utility spell for the attack speed. Now, I'm talking AD Ezreal, of course. Essence Flux being his W. Does deal damage only to champions. So it goes over creeps. It doesn't shove your lane if you use it. However, it's mostly used to debuff enemies and buff allies for their attack speed, which is really cool. But it's really mostly for utility. Like, I'll look to grab a point usually if I know I'm going to go do dragon with my team or something like that. Otherwise, honestly, I only skill Q and E. I really prefer getting the E on lower cooldown much faster and just using my Qs for maximal damage. Honestly, I don't really feel using Essence Flux. Essence Flux is a really good idea in terms of mana, but still, with these mana changes, maybe it's not so bad, but it's still only a 10 mana difference if you only put 1 point in it. So what's that worth? I don't know. However, the True Shot Barrage mana cost, which is his ultimate, going down to 100 from 150 is really good. 50 mana cost is a big difference. Those clutch ults at 6, when you hit 6 and I don't know, you can be in a brush, hit 6, your enemy thinks they're safe, recalling under tower, and you shoot out the True Shot Barrage, and bam, you get the kill. That's happened to me before. 130 mana, 120 mana, looking at my mana bar, thinking, holy shit, fuck, why can't I ultimate? That's what happens. It sucks, but that'll probably reduce those cases from now on. So all in all, it makes Ezreal a little more spam happy, maybe with the W. As AP Ez, this is not a terrible change at all, though, nor for the ult mana cost, which is really cool. AP Ez is kind of gimmicky, but it's really fun, so I'm happy about these mana changes, especially for AP Ezreal, I'd say. And AD is really all about the True Shot Barrage mana cost going down by 50. It's really big for him. Galio, getting the nerf, so they release, this is the tactic, right? They release like a super awesome legendary skin a patch or two later. They nerf him to the ground. Well, he's not nerfed to the ground, but his Resolute Smite going down by 0.1 is pretty big. Now, this will encourage you to continue making utility items on Galio. That's the point of reducing ability power ratios, because if ability power ratios are through the roof, you'll just build death cap into like 5 other death caps, if you will. Not actually, but the fact is that lowering this by just 0.1 will kind of make you want to maybe shy away from going death caps super early. Obviously, you still have your ultimate. You still have, the Bulwark and the Righteous Gust that do scale off AP. So you won't necessarily entirely shy away from using death cap, say, in your total build. But we'll see what it does to Galio. I don't know. I didn't feel we saw that many Galios, but hey, it's Riot's call. We'll see how this works out. They did give him quite a few fairly substantial buffs over the last few patches before this one and the one before, I think. So it's Riot's call. We'll see how that works out. Graves. Graves still getting nerfed. That AD carry, man. So Buckshot, damage reduced at later ranks to 60 all the way to 200, from 60 all the way to 240. So that's a 40 difference at max level. That is rather huge. So it's 10, 20, 30, 40 as of level 2, where you start losing damage off of it. Now the damage per extra bullet increased to 35% from 25%. That is, they basically made a change to Buckshot. So the people would do what Graves is supposed to do, and is get in your face, which is odd for an AD carry. But Graves is kind of tanky with his True Grit. He's overall he's a very strong champion. But the point of his Buckshot is to be in your face and Buckshot you. Like it's like you gotta dash in, Buckshot people, and then if you can get out, obviously that will give you the most damage you can. But I don't know. I don't think this change is going to be so severe. I mean, he still scales fairly well into late game. His auto attack range is his biggest problem late game, but he still has the utility smokescreen, which is just amazing. His quick draw is really good. Obviously, if you're auto attacking quite often, which is what quick draw helps you do, you will be able to quick draw again very shortly after. It's really cool. But the smokescreen does get nerfed, as it's written right there. Smokescreen duration reduced to 4 seconds from 5 seconds. That's not so terrible. I mean, the smokescreen is really one special ability in this game. It's pretty special, and it's fine that they remove maybe a second off of that, because that can really, really mess up team fights, just very, very badly. And it's not just good versus the 80 carry auto attacking people. It's good versus mages that are like, holy shit, I have like, say, Rise, 3 targetable spells and I can't land them. And on top of that, I'm not even aware of if my team's with me at this point, if I should be running in or backing out. So which way do you go from the smoke screen? Well, you kind of, you know, it depends on what you do, but you can often get caught out because you make the wrong choice. So reducing a second on it, not too bad. I don't think Graves is totally gone, but we may see a little less of him. And now Jack's getting nerfed. This is pretty sad, and it's quite the nerf, honestly. It's exactly the same nerf as what Graves just got for his buckshot. It's 40 at max rank, so it's 40 to 180 from 40 to 220. So his empower was really, really strong, and that's usually what you want to level in lane. I don't know if people will go back to leveling Leap Strike. I guess we will find out. Empower was really strong. I don't know if this is the thing that's going to kill Jax. I don't think so. He's still very, very strong, and you know, when he hit level 9, it was really hard to win versus him, even if you were winning in lane previously. So I'm curious to just, you know, what that is going to do. I'm assuming people will go back to Leap Strike or something like that. That would make a lot of sense. There are probably still some matchups where Counter Strike is viable, like getting more points into it. So Kog'Maw, living artillery damage bonus to champions reduced to 125 from 150. Kog'Maw did a total of 150 bonus damage to enemy champions, which is massive. That's huge. And this is bonus 150. So you had the damage and you had an extra 150 of its value on top of that. So reducing it by 25, not too big. Should be okay. It's mostly for AP Kog'Maw, to be honest, because it just multiplies way too well, having the ultimate, having that much of a ratio, going that high. It still does nerf 80 Kog'Maw, because once he hits level 6, he does gain quite a bit extra strength having that ultimate. And it's really, it's poke that, you know, can't really be punished so well, because he's just out of auto attack range. I mean, it's too far for you to handle. Nautilus, Titan's Wrath, damage reduced at later ranks. It's 30 to 130 from 30 to 150. So he loses a total of 20 at max rank. That's fine. Nautilus has been seen in the competitive scene quite a bit already. He's a very strong champion. He has tons of utility and like CC to bring to his team. It's just amazing. And his Titan's Wrath is very strong. So it's cool that they nerf it. Honestly, it was already very, very strong. And I mean, he does still have a shield on that, so it's already got tons of stuff. I don't think this will kill Nautilus at all. I think we'll still be seeing Nautiluses a lot. Now Nocturne got a sort of a change. His Umbra Blade's healing amount per target hit adjusted to 10, 18, 26 from 15, 20, 25. So he gained 1 extra, and he lost 5 at level 1. I think this is a 1, 7, 13 kind of thing, usually. I think passives scale like that sometimes when they decide to do it like that. So he loses 2 at the level 2 point, which is I think level 7, and he gains 1 point at max rank, Umbra Blade's max rank, which is probably level 13. I don't know why they did this, to be honest. I mean, I guess they just didn't want his early game to be so strong, but he's not terribly, I don't know, he's not super horrifying early game. Maybe it's a lower elo thing. I'm not too sure. Maybe they want him to have a little bit of a harder time in the jungle. So we'll see. Fix the bug for Nunu where Absolute Zero was revealing Nunu in cast from brush. Fair enough. That's a good fix. We got an interesting Renekton change here. Slice and Dice armor reduction increased at later ranks to 15 all the way to 35 from 15 all the way to 25. So that's a 10% increase. Now, will you use your Fury on Dice? I think so. I think you will. Late game, I really think you will. I think that, I mean, there's nothing negative about this. The only thing it is it sort of implies that you're going to want to use Dice at a 50 Fury cost on an enemy. And it's not a terrible idea. I mean, 35% can really, really help you and your AD carry, and potentially, I don't know, your jungler or whatever, like, like physical damage dealing champion you have on your team. Reducing 35 armor off of the tank on the enemy team is massive. That's almost a last whisper right there in Renekton's hands. So it's pretty big. The only problem is really the fact that how you use Slice and Dice. Like, you'll want to keep Dice usually to get away from a situation that you put yourself in voluntarily. Now you'll slice in, you'll do some damage, then people will look to turn and focus the Renekton, and Renekton will just dice out and rejoin his team. And then all of a sudden, if they even stop for a moment to just pay attention to you, your team got that much closer. And basically, you did well. Now, obviously, dicing out, you might hit people, you might have 50 Fury, especially if you use your ultimate and only used one spell, or got 50 Fury or whatever, I don't know. Like, obviously, you're generating Fury rather quickly when you have your ultimate on, so you're not too worried about getting the Fury. So if you're there for your utility, which is just to be disruptive, you can look to use the 35% and look to stun longer with your W, and then there you go. You use your 2 spells from Max Fury and you're happy. So yeah, I'd say that's pretty cool. Shen, his key strike cooldown increased to 9 seconds from 8 seconds. That's alright. That does make the attack speed auto attacking Shen, like on hit, would say would send a little weaker. 1 second isn't too massive, but it still changes like that slowly take characters, out of the scene. You just don't see him as much just because of that. I think Shen's still totally viable. His ultimate is just that special. So I think we'll still be seeing some Shen and Shen bans. Swain getting a buff this patch. His basic attack range increased to 500 from 480. Very small, but it's good to get him out of that 480 range. 500 is going to help him. Just for last hitting, he already has like a pretty poor, a pretty poor attack animation. So we'll see how that goes. Decrepify range increased to 625 from 600, which is good for you for casting it. Obviously, it'll unleash a lot quicker, most likely. I'm expecting it to, at least. Although just gaining that 25 range just really, it only helps you. It has that much more range, and there's no note that they changed the break range. So if you were casting it previously from max range, and now you cast it from the new max range, he will be stuck in the Decrepify for as long, basically as long as it used to be. That won't be changing. It's only safer for you, basically, if you're just trying to place the slow. The slow increase at later ranks to all the way to 40% from 32, which is good. It's going to be much more rewarding, as Morello was saying. It's going to feel a lot more like you actually have a slow. So that's a good change for Swain. And Ravenous Flock cooldown reduced to 8 seconds from 10 seconds. I also like this very much. You don't necessarily build into tons of CDR on Swain, albeit you can, and it's not terrible. It's just that usually you'll go mildly tanky and, AP items, not necessarily a whole bunch of cooldown items on him. So just that little help there, I think that's going to be cool for Swain. Definitely, I'd say, just like Morello was saying, you're supposed to be this Birdman thing, and you should be changing into that state more often. Whereas right now, people can really abuse the fact that you're just in lane passively farming. You use your Ravenous Flock to heal up just a little bit, hit a couple creeps, get some HP, then turn it off, and then everyone engages on you. You don't have that anymore, so it's really hurtful. Now, this extra 2 seconds off, knocked off like that, might be the difference between life and death. So it's a cool change. We'll probably be seeing a lot more Swains due to this. And Urgot getting some nerfs, actually. His Terra Capacitator, which is his shield, the health is reduced at later ranks. So it goes down to 280 from 320. It's a 40 reduction at max rank. Not super massive, but Urgot has been kind of terroring the scene for quite a bit. He's very anti-carry. Not to the point that he's necessarily anti-fun, but I'm pretty sure he can get there. And Hyperkinetic Position Reverser, which is his ultimate. The armor and magic resist bonus reduced to 120 from 130 at max rank. So that's a 10 reduced. That's fine. I mean, Urgot is already very tanky because of the way he's built usually. So reducing that is not necessarily a bad thing. And it's not like it's so negative, because if you use your swap effectively, you don't necessarily need these stats. Unless obviously this is the point. Now, usually that's just not the point. You don't swap into the enemy team and think, oh, I'll be fine, everything will be cool. I got their carry. It's not like I'm gonna die here, and like most chances are, if you did that, you're probably gonna die. But if you use it very effectively and smart, you shouldn't be seeing problems like this. That's pretty much the gist of it. So that goes over like the total patch notes. If you look at it just like visually, it's pretty decent. There's quite a few changes in the patch. Total, there's quite more nerfs, a lot more nerfs than there are buffs. Altogether, it's always interesting to see a patch. Like I mean, rarely is it that I'll be super sad about a patch or whatever, because I'm always interested in seeing how this is going to influence the game, how this will change matchups, either 1v1 or like in total team comps, stuff like that. And also, due to the fact that champions get nerfed, usually people seek out similar champions that can fill the role that these champions used to fill, but can now fill them better. So a good example would be Jax. If people judge that the Jax nerf is just too much, Jax is going to disappear, and that will sort of leave a void for another champion potentially to take his place. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the Draven patch notes, and I'll most likely be playing some games now or whatnot, checking out these changes, maybe the new champion again. I did pick up his cool skin, so you guys will be able to check it out here. And so that's about it. Thanks for checking out the Draven